So in light of the new Fantastic Four movie coming out, I thought it'd be a good idea, to which I later regretted, to rate in a tier list all of the 37 MCU movies that are out right now. 37. I hate my life. Let's not yap about it any longer. Let's go straight into the first movie of the MCU, Iron Man 1. So we start with the birthplace of the MCU, Iron Man 1, which takes billionaire playboy Tony Stark into an insane adventure. Now, this movie is just patriotism. That's all this movie is. Honestly, I think this movie is the biggest propaganda for the American dream. Honestly, this movie is insane. Like, its pure replayability alone is like just clear evidence of how flipping good this movie is. It was a great introduction to Tony Stark's character. I think one of the biggest highlights of the movie is the relationship between Tony and Potts. Is obviously before they get together in later movies, but you can honestly sense the dynamic and on-screen chemistry so well. And I think honestly, I just think the movie is so well done and a perfect introduction to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And how can you ever get fed up with that last line?
I am Iron Man.
Honestly, peak cinema and straight into the S tier.
Hulk! Smash!
Now the next movie on the list is Incredible Hulk, and now this movie takes Edward Norton as Bruce Banner, not our loved Mark Ruffalo as we know. Honestly, I don't think Edward Norton done that bad of a job. It was okay at best. He just wasn't the right man for the job. I do think the movie was just very surface level, even though it is sort of like not an origin story, but sort of like an origin movie for his character. It was still very surface level. I needed a bit more. One of my biggest takeaways from this movie is actually that I preferred the scenes with Hulk not in it. And I think that's the one thing you don't want in a superhero movie. You want like those sort of scenes where the person finally shows their powers to be like insane, like gets you on the edge of your seat. Where in these scenes, at least in the movie, I genuinely preferred when Hulk wasn't in it. And I think that says a lot to the writing and the production of the movie. And also, I just think they got the character of Hulk all wrong. Like, there was multiple times in the movie where he was just like wielding like a shield. Hulk with like shields, and like he used so many weapons and that. Like, I think the whole premise of Hulk is just punch bad guys, like jump into buildings. I think that's purely it. But it's like they tried to do Captain American cosplay. I don't know, just keep it simple. And for that reason, I think I'm going to give it a D. I think it goes straight into D tier. And now we're back with our favourite billionaire douchebag with Tony Stark in Iron Man 2. Now, I'm going to point this out now, so I don't have to say this later. Iron Man 2 is for sure my least favourite of the Iron Man trilogy. And that is purely because the villain. I think the villain was mid. It was so mid. I'm a big fan of Iron Man movies. Yeah, I think the premise of his whole character is great, but this villain was so lackluster, like honestly bored me to death. I mean, I wasn't invested in his story at all. I'm not a fan. Again, another highlight I'd say is the dynamic of Pepper and Tony. I think, you know, as the Iron Man movies go on, we only see their sort of love for each other grow even more. But in this movie, it really stood out. Black Widow, another massive highlight for the movie. And yeah, apart from that, I just think everything else was just sort of mid. I do think it probably has the worst end fight scene I've ever seen in a Marvel movie, but that might be too early to say. I just don't see how that was a struggle at all. Like, the way they took down whatever his name was is just like, I genuinely think a 5-year-old could have written that. But anyways, straight into C tier. Now we're moving on to Chris Hemsworth's Thor. Now, I'm going to say this now, but Thor is a character I am just genuinely not very invested in. I'm not a big fan of the character himself, his lore, like, so from a personal standpoint, it was very hard for me to get into this sort of origin movie about him. And one of my biggest takeaways of this movie, and I actually really hated it at the time, was normally with good character development, it's a slow change. You can see how they're progressing from maybe being someone cocky to slowly caring about the people around them, for example. But in this movie, Thor literally just switched like that. I think it was so poorly done and so unrealistic to where you're just this way at one part and the next scene you're just like that. Like you just suddenly care about everyone now in life. Like for example with Tony, we saw he was sending weapons to all the military, American military, and you can see how his character changed over the movie and even into the second movie where he's still that cocky person. You can see that slow development, a slow progression into someone that is, cares so much more about the world and the people around them. And Thor just done that so poorly. Natalie Portman had great acting in this. She's definitely one of, if not the only highlight in this movie. I think Loki also is a great character even from the start, even though we haven't gotten to his best sort of performances yet. I think he was a very, very good addition. But that's it, yeah. Honestly, take out Natalie Portman and Loki and I think you have yourself an F tier movie. But because of them, I'll give it a C tier. Now moving on to the first Captain America movie on this list, we have Captain America, the First Avenger. Now, I am a very, very big fan of Captain America's character as a whole. I think they really developed that emotional connection with Steve Rogers from the get-go. Yeah, I feel like we started with him as someone we pitied or wanted to see succeed, and at the end it's like we're proud of our own son. Definitely one of the greatest sort of origin movies they've done about a character, and I think honestly they couldn't have executed that more perfectly, if I'm being honest. My only, I guess, issue with this movie is the villain. Now Red Skull, I'm just not very interested in. He's just evil, and I think like that's it. He doesn't have any sort of crazy backstory to him. He doesn't have a motive or a reason to be doing the things that he does. He just does it for the love of the game. He does it literally for the love of the game. Not a great villain. Not very interested. I think that's where the movie drops off a bit. Tommy Lee Jones done flipping an amazing acting performance in this movie. I think he was so good. The fight scenes, the choreography was great. I think that's one thing that you can always take out of a Captain America movie, is that choreography is just always on point. Fight scenes are great, and yeah, because of all of those things as a collective, I'm gonna give this movie a B. Now moving on to a movie I'm sure we all know and love is the Avengers. Now, I have a few things to highlight here that I think are just great. They're so good, it's amazing. And the first thing is definitely starting off with this rivalry / friendship between Steve Rogers and Tony Stark. The fact that they're in like a constant brawl throughout the movie, but then they team up and it's like they're all almost friends at some point. I think that's done so well. It's incredibly fun to watch on screen, The fight scenes were so good. Loki's character from the start to the finish was honestly amazing. And another big highlight here that I'd actually want to point out that I don't think a lot of people do is I think Mark Ruffalo's performance here is just great. Obviously, it is his first performance as the Hulk, being seen as Edward Norton was in the movie. But his first sort of intro to this character was so amazing, and he done a lot of justice to his character that the first movie didn't. So for that, I have to personally applaud him. I don't really have any bad things to say about this movie, so I think it definitely warrants it S tier. So now, like I said with the 3 Iron Man movies, I am a much bigger fan of Iron Man 3 than I am number 2, and I'm gonna start where I left off in the last one about the villain. Now, Aldrich Killian is so much of a better villain than Hammer was, or Whiplash, whatever his name was. I can't even remember. I thought the way they went with the whole PTSD sort of aspect of it, I thought it was honestly like a good idea, but I do think the execution towards the end and the sort of resolving it was the issue there. Those scenes in Tennessee with the kid, honestly, the kid's a massive highlight of the movie, but if I'm being honest, back when I used to watch it when I was a kid, I did not like the scenes with like in Tennessee. I didn't like these scenes. I honestly thought it was a weakness of the movie, but now I actually think it's a big highlight, and if not the best bit of the movie. The ending with Pepper coming out like she's got flipping the 10 rings on her. Like, it's ridiculous. I don't know how she thinks she's a super soldier martial arts fighter. Like, I don't understand why they made her do that. I also think that's a weak point. Quite happy with this movie. I think it's a much bigger improvement on number 2. And yeah, for that reason, I'm gonna have to put it in B tier. Now, moving on to a movie that I actually have a lot to talk about. This is Thor: The Dark World. Now, like I said from the start, I'm not invested in this character. But, you know, going into this movie, I thought, let's see if they can maybe bring something back. And did it do that? No, it didn't. It didn't even succeed like 10% of doing that. I'll start off with the bad stuff because they genuinely so outweighs the good stuff so much. But the villain was so forgettable. I don't remember his reason. I don't remember his name. That's about it. All I remember is he's some sort of dark elf. That end fight, that end sequence was ridiculous. They was so poor. I mean, this guy has an Infinity Stone, and yet flipping Natalie Portman and a couple scientists are beating her. Like, for you to have an Infinity Stone and get destroyed on by Padme, kind of crazy, I'm not gonna lie. Taking out all of that, I just think it's not that bad to earn an F. I think during the middle of the movie it was okay. The Thor's mum dying was like, it was an alright sequence. I mean, they could have done it better. It definitely wasn't the best thing they've ever done. But yeah, I don't see why this movie would merit an F, so I'm going to put it in D tier. Okay, moving on to Captain America Winter Soldier. Now, first off, I just want to say that first boat sequence was insane. Now, like I said before, I love Captain America fight scenes. I think choreography is so good. I'm in love with his character in general. And this movie is no different. I think it is so good, and Winter Soldier was such a highlight of this movie. Like, I do think the guy, the shield guy that was the bad guy, I think he was a bit lackluster for a villain. He wasn't terrible, but I think he could have been a bit better to be the main villain of this movie. Like, it seemed like Bucky was the bigger villain, but he was actually sort of the mastermind behind it all. So I guess he could have been a bit better. That would have really lifted the movie up into a new level. The choreography on that first Cap and Bucky scene was insane. That fight was so good. Even Nick Fury's death, I mean, alleged death, he didn't actually die, but in that sort of death scene, it was pure. Like, it seemed real compared to some other flippant death scenes that I've seen in some of these movies. We'll get onto them later. Like, it was just how you execute a death perfectly. And I think even comparing that to Thor's mum dying in the last movie, it was just so much better. Yeah, I guess also another thing that I'll say, it's a little thing, but when Cap was having that sort of conversation with Peggy, I think in terms of like the grand scheme of things and Captain America movies in general, I do think that conversation should have hit a little bit harder. When you think of that movie, you don't think of that scene at all. I don't think anyone would sort of think of that scene. I think if you think about Captain America's character and Peggy's character and Captain America the First Avenger, you would honestly think that a conversation with Peggy, where Peggy's old and he's still looking like he was back then, it would hit so much harder on an emotional level into the character, but it just didn't do that for me. And I don't think it did for anyone. So because of that, I can't give this movie an S, but I'm going to give it an A. Now we're moving into outer space in the MCU, and we have the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie. Now, this movie was just such a breath of fresh air. I know we're not even that far into the list, but like in terms of humor, it's the best humor we've seen in the MCU so far. I thought Ronan was a pretty good villain. Together, they make for an insanely likable group. Like I said, the humor is great. It's the best we've seen so far in the MCU. In terms of specifically actual scenes, the We Are Groot scene is one that is definitely even influential now. Like, people still talk about that now. Continuing along with the character of Groot, do you remember he only says 3 words, or 4 if you include the we that he said. But I am Groot is all he says, and I think with a character that only says 3 words, he brings out so much more emotion and he has so much depth into the story. Even though he can't conversate with us watching it, but he can obviously with some of the people that understand him in the movie. Going in, I can't believe I haven't even mentioned this yet. Going on in terms of soundtrack, it definitely has the best soundtrack we've seen so far in the MCU. And the use of it as well, the editing is so well done in this movie. We do get our first introduction of Thanos as a character, which obviously we will get onto later on. And my only sort of, I wouldn't say it's a flaw. I don't think it's as big enough to be a flaw. But my only sort of takeaway from this movie is that sort of last dance scene. Like, if I was Ronan and I was doing this big bad thing to destroy a world that I hate, I don't think a human dancing would be enough to distract me from my goal. That kind of struck a nerve because I was like it's just kind of pathetic. But I think everything else was done so well that I can't bring it down a tier because of that. And that is why I'm going to put Guardians of the Galaxy in S tier. Now with Avengers Age of Ultron, I don't really have much to say. I mean, I think the first thing I'd say is it's like Avengers 0.5. I obviously do prefer the first Avengers, but I also really do like Age of Ultron. I just don't think it executed things as well as the first one did. And let's start off with, for example, Ultron, the villain. I do think he's heavily underrated. I see him getting a lot of slack on social media, and honestly, I don't think he should be getting as much slack as he does. And I think, well, I've been seeing recently that quite a few people have been like starting to say like, oh, like Ultron had some insane lines, or he was insanely intimidating, and we can see from that one scene where he was introduced, it's insanely intimidating, and I love that about a villain. And I think just with a bit of better writing, I do think he would be one of the best in the whole of the MCU. But unfortunately, we didn't get that. But nevertheless, the movie is still great. First time seeing Wanda and Quicksilver, which also great additions to the story. However, you know, Quicksilver wasn't an addition for too long because his on-screen death was honestly a bit rushed. I didn't really like that. I think everyone sort of, I don't know, it didn't sit right with me. But I am a big fan of Age of Ultron. So taking all that into account, I can't give it anything less than an A. Now before I move on to the next one, let me put this into context for you. I've just watched 2 group movies. So I just watched Avengers and Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, the next movie is Ant-Man, and I was actually quite happy to move into an individual movie now. Obviously, the 2 previous group movies have been insane, but I wanted to see something a bit more grounded. Ant-Man was great. Paul Rudd was an insane casting choice. I think they couldn't have done that better. I really enjoyed the scene with Falcon, that fight with Falcon. I think that was like a great sort of introduction in terms of what Ant-Man can do in the realm of the Avengers, I guess. I'm a big fan of the miniature scenes, obviously by his name, Ant-Man. When he does become as little as an ant, I really do like the visuals and the sort of action that goes on when he's in that sort of state. I have a really big flaw with this movie, and something that actually really like doesn't sit right with me is that Hank obviously has been going his whole life trying to solve this one thing, which is get his wife out of the quantum realm. And you're telling me Ant-Man, who barely has any experience, he's just got on a suit, he's just getting used to it, and he's just solved that straight away? That is, I think that's lazy writing to me. And Hank is insanely smart. He's one of the smartest people in all of Marvel. And you're telling me he couldn't find out to just put one of those little like machines into the belt and you're just back? Really not a fan of that. I think that actually did put it down a couple levels for me. But overall, like, let's not lie and say that it's an amazing movie. It's not an amazing movie, but it's good, and you can't ask for really anything more. However, I do have something to say in terms of the next Ant-Man movies. This movie did not merit the creation of a trilogy. It shouldn't. This whole Ant-Man trilogy that we're going to talk about soon should not have been created. I genuinely think this one movie is done. Maybe the second one at most, but the third is just overkill, and we'll get into that later. But considering all of this, I'm going to give Ant-Man a B. And now we're back with a banger. We have Captain America Civil War. Now, moving back to what I said in the first Avengers, we have that rivalry between Cap and Tony Stark. This movie obviously takes on their conflict, and it could not have done that any better. I do Really like the whole moral aspect to it. I like the fact that there's two different sides with all the heroes we love and we've seen in the previous movies. A big highlight for me that I have about this movie is the introduction of Black Panther. I think his character, the writing was all so good. Chadwick Boseman was an insane casting choice for this. I don't think you could have a better Black Panther. Some of those few lines as well, oh my god, it is genuinely just peak cinema.
The Black Panther has been the protector of Wakanda for generations. A mantle passed from warrior to warrior. And now because your friend murdered my father, I also wear the mantle of king. So I ask you, as both warrior and king, how long do you think you can keep your friend safe from me?
Spider-Man in that airport scene was great. I don't see how you could have done that any better. It really shows sort of the kid he is at this point. And that last Iron Man 2v1, oh my god. The choreography in that was so good. The way it was filmed, oh, I genuinely don't think you could have done that any better. There's just so many highlights of this movie. So I'm actually going to talk about a small takeaway from this movie, and that is, again, the villain. Now, I do criticize a lot of villains. At times, he just sort of felt like a throwaway in the movie. It's not practical at all. But this movie was so good that it made up for that. And because of this, it doesn't stop it from being an S-tier movie. I'm sorry, this movie is so good and it's definitely one of the best in the MCU. Okay, now we're going back to a new origin movie now. Moving on to Doctor Strange. I just want to start off by saying visually, this movie is incredibly stunning. And I think you expect that from sort of this sorcerer, insane magician. Like, I think Benedict Cumberbatch done a great job at playing Doctor Strange. I mean, it's not like he hasn't played a cocky genius before ever in his life. And also, one of the things I want to highlight, I've spoken about end sequences in a couple of these movies already, but this end sequence with Dormammu was honestly insane. Like, normally we love to see this big sort of battleground or an insane one-on-one fight at the end, but this whole Dormammu end sequence with the repeating and coming back was so good. It was done so well, and I don't have many bad things to say about it. I also don't think the movie was amazing at everything. I don't think it was even like great at everything. I think some of the times it was actually kind of mid. I do think aesthetically it was great, but I also think that's what brings the appeal to the movie is the aesthetics. And I just think with the fundamentals of the story and the plot, I do think it could have been done a bit better. So because of that, I'm actually going to give it a B. Now, moving on from its success a few years before, we have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Now, I want to start this off by saying Baby Groot is possibly the best character in the MCU. Out of all of them, Baby Groot, yep, you heard me. Visually, the movie is so good. But, however, how Doctor Strange was serious and still visually stunning, like aesthetically the movie was great now, but with Guardians 2, a lot of the visuals were actually kind of gimmicky. Now, where they were still very colourful, very nice, it was insane to look at, but a lot of times also like too fake. And I'm not very big on that sort of gimmicky visual stuff. So that sort of brought it down a tier for me. I think Ego as a villain was actually pretty decent. I mean, like, he was okay, above average, I would say, but he wasn't sort of on the tier of insane villains that we kind of get sometimes in the MCU. I do have to talk about that one line he delivered to Chris Pratt, though. That was absolutely insane. And that twist to the story was so good. Like, Guardians, in terms of plots and stories, genuinely amazing. You have to give it to them every single time. But yeah, I think apart from everything else, the sequel was, like I said about Age of Ultron, it was like Guardians 0.5, where they still done stuff well, but it just wasn't done to the extent that number one was. Like, even to do with the soundtrack's insane, but it's like they really tried to replicate what they'd done in one with using it. Like, the editing wasn't as good. The gold woman, I don't know, it's like the Sovereign or whatever she's called, she was kind of annoying. Rocket and Yondu's relationship, I think, was a big plus in the movie. I think that was a great sort of addition. Humor was good. It's a Guardians movie, you're always going to get good humor, but again, not to the standards that Guardians 1 set. Like, I think I'm seeing the same sort of themes here with just, it doesn't it doesn't do what number one did. And I think it's still a great movie, but because of this, I'm gonna give Guardians Volume 2 a B. And I think that's a good tier because it was still a good movie, but I expected more. By no means is B a bad rating, that's for sure. So yeah, I'm happy with that rating. Now at the time, this is the one we were all waiting for. This is the intro to our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, Spider-Man Homecoming. Now, the movie is kind of surface level. I'll start off by saying this. However, it is an intro movie. He is still kind of like a kid. So I didn't expect to see like space aliens or anything like that. I wanted a grounded experience, and that's what we got. But I did also want a little bit more detail. I think it was very simple. But who knows, maybe that's better for an intro to Peter's character. Michael Keaton as the Vulture is an insane sort of cast. I think you couldn't have played that any better. I think the fact that they didn't show us how he sort of got his powers is okay. Maybe not the route I would have gone for, but they're the writers, not me. I think it does a great job of showing that Peter is in fact still a kid and he has trouble managing the sort of school life with the superhero life. So I have to give them that. I think they've done a good job at that. But I just don't think it excelled in anything. And that's okay. For an intro movie, I think that's okay. So yeah, I think I'm going to give Spider-Man Homecoming a B. I think I'm going to put it in B tier, and I think that's a good rating. And we're back. We're back for the third installment of Thor with Thor Ragnarok. Now, it brings me great pleasure to say that they finally got a Thor movie right. I know the source of their success with this movie, and I think that's just their complete sort of separation from Earth. The Colosseum fight, obviously Thor and Hulk, was so good. Jeff Goldblum as the Grandmaster was perfect casting. I actually think it's one of the best casting that Marvel's ever done. Like he just completely stole the show. I like the fact that the movie was wacky, but it also wasn't like cringe. This was wacky and not cringe at all, which was so good. I think Hela was an insane villain. I think the costumes in this movie were so good. Valkyrie, another great character, another great addition. I think it added quite a few like funny and enjoyable moments with Thor, and I don't really get the humor with Thor, but I did in this movie, and I really like this movie. I actually really do think they've done a lot of stuff right. So it actually makes me quite happy to say that I'm gonna give Thor Ragnarok an A. Now, going on from what we were talking about in Civil War, we have Black Panther. Now, again, going back onto the topic of Chadwick Boseman, you couldn't have picked a better actor to do this. And now, rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman. He was so good in this movie. I think there were a lot of topics that were perfectly represented in this movie as well. Some that are honestly quite controversial to talk about, but I think they do it so well. Wakanda is beautiful visually, and I do also like the fact that obviously the movie takes a lot of inspiration from like Africa and its cultures and visuals as well, and I think that was so good. I think they've done that so well. You couldn't have really asked for more with this movie. Yeah, Killmonger was a great villain. I think Michael B. Jordan done a great job. I had a lot of doubts into Michael B. Jordan taking on this role, but I am very happy with how he done it. I'm not gonna lie. The fight scenes in this movie was great. When they were doing the sort of ceremony in the water, I can't remember what that's called, but them fight scenes were absolutely insane. Choreography was on point in this, and yeah, I think my only sort of takeaway is that the end sequence again wasn't the greatest. It was still good, but I think in terms of the rest of the movie, it didn't uphold to the same standards. But honestly, that's fine by me. It wasn't a big takeaway for me. So I'm gonna put Black Panther into A tier. Now, obviously I have spoken about this movie before, but moving on to Avengers Infinity War. Now, I've always said the recipe for a good movie is a good villain, and that's what lets down a lot of these Marvel movies nowadays, is the villain is kind of just mid, or they're not detailed enough, they're very surface level. But here we have Thanos in full throttle. Now, undoubtedly, Thanos is the best villain the MCU has seen, and Infinity War shows that, because it didn't even just seem like an Avengers movie, it genuinely seemed like a Thanos movie. And I think in terms of the level of depth, you could not have done that any better. And I don't think Thanos is just the best villain in the MCU. I think Thanos is one of the best villains we've ever seen in fiction completely. And I really do like the humiliating aspect of it. The fact that we're seeing this one big purple guy just destroy all the heroes we know and love and who we've watched for the last few years is so humiliating that I actually quite love it. It's pure gold. The movie is just gold from start to finish, and Thanos wins, and that is something we don't see in superhero movies in general, and I'm so glad that they went that direction with it because it worked so well. The movie starting with Thor and ending with Thor was insane. Like, I think that whole sort of the circular aspect of it, the fact they started and ended with him was so good. Tony holding Peter as he's sort of fading away and he's getting blipped is always going to bring a tear to my eye. Like, it was such a beautiful scene. It was so sad. Like, it was incredibly sad, and like it never will not hit me. I couldn't make it better even if I put my whole life's work into it. And for that reason, it brings me great pleasure to put this into the GOAT tier. Now, with Ant-Man and Wasp, like I said with the first Ant-Man, it did not merit, like that first movie did not merit a whole trilogy. And I'm sorry, I do like Paul Rudd as the Ant-Man, but I don't, his character doesn't merit a trilogy at all. In this movie, it shows Ant-Man and the Wasp was not, it wasn't a terrible movie. I also wouldn't go as far as to say it's a bad movie, but I also wouldn't say it's a good movie. Completely mid throughout. Ghost is an okay character. Everyone's sort of just okay in this movie, and I don't really have much else to say in that, so I'm actually going to move on swiftly and just put it in C tier. Just incredibly mid, to be honest. Now, moving on to Captain Marvel, I just want to start off by saying, I don't think up to this point at least, I've never been more bored with an MCU movie than this movie here. Like, I wasn't a fan of the character. I'm still not a fan of the character. And I actually didn't even watch it all in one sitting. That's how sort of bored I was. The lows of this movie are just incredibly low. The only reason I think I wouldn't give this movie an F is purely because of a young Nick Fury. And also when she fully got her powers and went like absolutely insane. Like, okay, cool. Like, that was kind of crazy, but that took 90% of the movie for it to happen before she done that. So I don't see anything else then to give it a D tier. So now obviously we have Avengers Endgame. Now, a lot of people I think would put Endgame as their GOAT movie, but obviously that spot's already taken up. Thank you, Infinity War. Is Endgame far off from Infinity War? No, I actually don't think so. There are so many highlights, and the highlights definitely do outweigh the lows. My biggest low, I'd say, is sort of the Hawkeye turning into like Ronin. Like, I think that was just pointless. You showed him for like 2 minutes just for him to immediately change back. But apart from that, I don't see how this movie is bad anyway. Absolutely incredible. Like, I do think it does a bit of fan service, but I think that's what you need from a movie as big as Endgame. Like, everyone in the world was going to watch Endgame at some point. Cap lifting Thor's hammer was incredible. Black Widow's death, as sad as it was also an incredible part of the movie. Now, the Thanos we dealt with with Infinity War, like, he had every reason to do what he's doing. Like I said, it felt like a Thanos movie. Whereas with this one, Thanos sort of hadn't done anything he had done in Infinity War, and still felt like he had to do this with all these guys coming at him who absolutely hate him, and he hasn't done any of the stuff that the Infinity War one did. Like, he was still Thanos. He was still insane, but it wasn't the Thanos we grew to hate, I guess, let's say. I actually have to put this movie in S tier. Moving on to the second movie of Tom Holland's Spider-Man, we have Spider-Man Far From Home. I want to start off by sort of addressing what a lot of people's weaknesses are about this movie. And a lot of them are saying that they don't like it because a lot of it takes place in like Europe, or like none of it's in New York. And everybody obviously loves Spider-Man for being in New York. But I actually disagree. Now, I think this might be one of the most controversial takes I have in this whole list. But I absolutely love Far From Home. I love the aspect where they call him like Night Monkey and he's in the black suit. I think it looks great. I'm not one of those guys to say, oh, it's not in New York and I'm not happy with that. No, absolutely not. This is Peter's first movie where he's sort of crushing over MJ. This is where we start to see that connection between Peter and MJ. We see Peter sort of struggling with Tony Stark's death, like, and he's really going through it. And I think they've done that so well. Some of the scenes where we can really see it coming through is insane. He's obviously trying to live up to what Tony Stark was. He wants to be like him. He's like a father figure to him. I think moving on to the villain, Jake Gyllenhaal is an incredible actor. I think he's done a great job with Mysterio. The drone scene was one of the best scenes in the whole of the MCU. Like, him showing that complete domination with his spider senses, like, it's so good. That whole drone scene I could replay over and over again. It's insane. And for that reason, I'm gonna put Spider-Man Far From Home in A tier. Now it seems like we're actually going back in time a bit here, because the next movie we have is Black Widow. Now this movie should have come out in phase 1 or 2, yet we've seen it come out in phase 4 after her on-screen death. Like, it genuinely frazzles my mind. I went into it, clear conscience, clear mind, let's see what it was. It was terrible. It was god awful. I do not like this movie. I do not intend to watch this movie ever again. And if anyone ever says, come, let's watch the Black Widow movie, I'd rather go upstairs and go to sleep. That just about says it all, to be honest. Yelena was okay, I guess. It was just bad. The whole movie was just bad. It was so forgettable. And I think in about a week or two, I won't remember what happens in this movie at all. Like, not even the slightest thing. And also, like, Black Widow is a normal human being. I think people need to understand this. She's not, yes, she has training, but she's not a super soldier. Some of the stuff she was surviving in this movie is just purely, like, ridiculous. She got into 2 life-threatening car crashes within 10 minutes of the movie, and she survived like it was nothing. Like, genuinely, she is a normal human being. If this was the case, she would have died in one of her first flipping minutes in the movie. Like, it doesn't make any sense, and I really do not like this movie, so it is actually getting the F tier. Will the next movie make up for the tragedy that was Black Widow? And yes, it will. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Now, the one biggest thing I have to speak about in this is fight scenes and choreography. Oh my god, whoever worked on that in this movie, you are an absolute legend. The fight scenes in this movie are absolutely incredible. Everything was perfectly choreographed. The scenes were satisfying to watch. Costumes, I think costumes were great, showing that sort of culture. Insane. I really enjoyed the dynamic between Shang-Chi and obviously his sister, Xiaoling, I think she's called. Do I think it deserves an S tier? No, but it's not far off. I do think with a little bit more sort of toying with it and a few little more added aspects to it, it could have gotten an S tier. The one thing that doesn't really grant it that is that end fight with the dragon. Yeah, the dragons are cool, I enjoy it, but I prefer the sort of one-on-one hand-to-hand combat action scenes so much better. Like the fight between the dad and Shang-Chi with the 10 rings, like, incredible. But then you going into the dragon stuff, not as good in my opinion. And like, let's talk about that flipping BMW product placement. Like, that was ridiculous. They need to go back and take that out. I don't care if they release a whole new movie without the BMW. They need to do that. It was so bad. One of the most obvious product placements I've ever seen. But this movie is great. And if someone was to tell me, you want to watch the Shang-Chi again right now? Yes, 100%. Not like that fraud that Black Widow movie was. Like, Shang-Chi, 100%. I would watch it again. A tier immediately. Now we move on to Eternals. Now, Eternals has a great sort of idea and premise to it. I really enjoyed that. However, for one, there's way too many main characters. And I think there was so many little, like, subplots with all these different characters. It's hard to sort of keep up. Like, there was about 3 or 4 flipping love interests in this movie. Like not for me. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I really enjoyed what you were trying to do with it. Did it work? No, not really, but honestly, with better writing, I think it could have been insane. I think this movie could have been so good. Visually, the movie's great. I think it came up short with just about everything else you need in a movie, but because of how promising I do actually like see in this whole Eternal storyline and the characters, I'm gonna put it in C tier. I think it was just about mid. I think there was a lot of lows, but actually a couple highs which just about evens it out into being mid, so I'm gonna put it in C tier. We're moving on to one of the biggest events in cinema that I genuinely think has ever happened. Spider-Man No Way Home. Now, there were so many highlights. For one, let's talk about the past villains. So now obviously we saw Green Goblin, we saw Electro, we saw Sandman, Lizard, Doc Ock. Like, the villains were great. Obviously, and the biggest highlight of them all, Willem Dafoe, especially in that one hallway scene, was like fair play. Like, I tip my hat to you, because that was incredible. Now let's move on to obviously Toby and Andrew being in this movie was great. Like the rooftop scene where they're consoling Tom Holland's Spider-Man, like, oh my god, you couldn't have done it any better. Aunt May's death, I think, was executed really well. You really brought out that like killer in Tom Holland's Spider-Man. The end makes me shed a tear like every single time I've watched it. I've watched it so many times and it's never failed to make me shed a tear. And I also really do like how it sets up Tom Holland's Spider-Man into the new sort of trilogy. Honestly, this movie's great. This movie's so good. It obviously is a bit of fan service at the end, but then again, if you're gonna bring Toby and Andrew back, I want all the fan service you can give me, if I'm being completely honest. So yeah, immediate S tier. Now we're actually moving on to one of the biggest disappointments, or the expectations that this movie could have actually hit were so high, and I hate to say it, but I'm disappointed with the product of all of this. It's got some amazing characters. Obviously, it is a Doctor Strange movie, so you have Doctor Strange. Wanda being like the villain is insane. Obviously, she went crazy after everything that's going on in her life. She's going through midlife crisis, crazy vibes. It definitely could have been better. Dialogue seemed forced. It seemed like it wasn't very natural at all. With that whole sort of Illuminati group, they are supposedly like the world's smartest people, right? Yet they seemed like so incredibly average. Like, I think I remember them saying how like who one of their powers is, and it just completely showed Wanda the weakness of like how to kill him. Like, for you to be world's smartest people, I'd like to think you'd make better decisions than that. I'm not a fan of America's character at all, if I'm being honest. The whole thing about her just believing in herself as the resolution to everything is just like kill me now. And yeah, I think it's just lazy. It's just very lazy. Like, Wanda even putting the mountain on top of her just to end it all is just, it's lazy. And I don't like lazy things. Except me. So, immediate C tier. Moving on to a movie that quite literally everyone and their mum hates. We have Thor, Love and Thunder. You remember how I told you that Thor was a character where I just couldn't get into their sort of storyline and anything like that. And I thought maybe Thor Ragnarok is a step in the right direction. No. Not at all. Now, Thor Love and Thunder is just pathetic. It's so incredibly pathetic. And how Thor has merited a fourth movie, 4 movies, more 9 man, 4 movies. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. The movie's terrible. There's nothing good about it. Acting isn't good, dialogue isn't good. The only thing that's even somewhat near good, still not good, but even near good, is gore. Christian Bale is just cracked at what he does. He's a great actor. He always gets really invested into his role. But apart from that, everything else was so terrible that this goes immediately into F tier. No debating, no nothing about it. F all the way. Moving on, we have Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. That means, well, obviously there is no Chadwick Boseman, and I think that's the main issue about this movie. How can you fill in the shoes of a perfect casting choice? And this, you can really feel it in this movie. It was so mid. The movie was insanely long. It did not have to be that long at all. And I just think, honestly, the writing is very poor in this movie, and I'm actually quite surprised, because I thought the writing in number 1 was very good, but I think Shuri should have actually became and embraced the Black Panther so much earlier. Like, if she could just make those little flowers that make you the Black Panther earlier, all she has to do is ask her flipping ChatGPT to do it, and he does it straight away. She should have became Black Panther so much earlier. The other girl, Riri, whatever her name is, She's so annoying. Suit design is great. I do think the Shuri's Black Panther suit looks insane. Namor, I actually did quite like the lore to Namor and bars, the lore to Namor. But then again, he's just like, it's just so average at best. You can't fill Chadwick Boseman's shoes, and we can clearly see that in this movie. C tier. And we go from mid to tragic with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Now, why on earth this movie exists, I have no clue. How does this movie have a third? I don't understand it at all, and I really, I'm gonna make a petition for them to take it down, to just completely take it down, because do I care about the quantum realm? No, I don't at all. Do I have any interest for this movie? No, I don't. I hate it. I'm not gonna lie, I hate it. I hate it, and I want my time back immediately. Instant F tier, no complaining. Moving on. Now, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, I actually have, I think, a slightly controversial take when it comes to this movie. I think Guardians 3 is the best of all the Guardians movies out. Guardians 3 is 100% the best. I cried about 2 or 3 times watching this movie. I didn't just shed a tear, no, I cried full bawling like a baby. It was insane, to say the least. The High Evolutionary, insane villain. Like, he's so cracked. I want to see more of him. That whole, obviously, storyline with Rocket is just like, I can't watch this movie again purely because I don't want to go to sleep thinking about it. That whole thing that we were talking about with both the Guardians movies before, the editing and the music choice was so much closer to Guardians 1 than Guardians 2 was. That last fight sequence where they were just teaming up and destroying him was so peak. It was so peak. Guardians 3, I absolutely love you, and I never want to go a day without watching you. And because of that, I'm giving you S tier. For sure. Immediate S tier. Moving on to the Marvels. Now, the Marvels, I don't understand why this movie was created. I don't understand why someone was even attracted to the idea of making this movie. I don't enjoy the story. I don't enjoy the characters. I think that singing planet needs to be absolutely nuked off the face of the MCU. I absolutely do not want it there at all. It was so goofy, like just cringe, like insanely cringe. The suit design was like hilariously bad in this movie for some reason, and I actually really like the way Marvel does their suits and their characters, but this was just terrible in this movie. The villain is just like, who are you? Like, I don't care about you. I don't think anyone cares about you. Like, her name was like Darben or something like that. Like, I don't know why she's a villain and why Captain Marvel even needed 2 other people to kill her. God knows, like, and that's my main problem with Captain Marvel. Like, how are you one of the strongest people in the whole universe? And you show that by flying straight through ships. But you only use your abilities in the last 20 minutes of your movie. Like, if you're that strong, just fly through every single flipping battalion in the field. Like, why are you doing hand-to-hand combat when you could just pierce their skull with pure force? Monica Rambeau, surely she could have closed that hole in the sky from the inside, not the outside and the other side. Like, I just think that is the worst writing I've ever seen in my life. And then they tried to redeem it with the Kamala Khan's assembling a team at the end. Kamala Khan, why is she assembling a team? I don't want to see her on the screen again. I'm sorry, but that character is infuriating. I don't like her. I think she just needs to be absolutely wiped away from the MCU. Why is she making a team with that kid Hawkeye girl as well? Like, she's not any better. She's acting like she recruited Iron Man or something. Just get it out. I don't want to see it again. If you didn't know already by the way I'm speaking, this movie goes straight into F tier. Deadpool and Wolverine. Now, I didn't watch it when it came out, so I actually had the pleasure of watching it for the first time. That starting sequence is great. I remember seeing clips of it on TikTok, but I saw it for the first time and it is insane. What a great way to start a movie. Humor is still just classic Deadpool humor. You're always going to get that with a Deadpool movie. You know exactly what you're going to get. But that's the thing with this movie. This movie is a great comedy. But is it a great superhero movie? Honestly, I don't really think so. Like, it was a bit of a breath of fresh air compared to all these other terrible movies I've just had to watch. I had a good time laughing, but did I have a great story and amazing characters to think? I mean, good characters, yeah. Gambit, Blade, Elektra were all kind of insane. Story-wise, no, I didn't like it at all. I'm not gonna lie. By no means was it a bad movie. It was a good movie, and if I ever want to laugh and watch some superhero stuff as well in the background, then I would put it on again for sure. And for that reason, I'm gonna give it a B. I think B tier is the perfect place for it. Now, I have something that completely tarnishes Captain America's name. We have Captain America Brave New World. Now, is this movie good? No, it isn't. Is it worthy of an F tier? No, I actually don't think it is. However, not very far off. It is by far the worst of the Captain America movies because obviously it isn't Steve Rogers. But it's not even just that. It bothers me that Captain America, the new one, Anthony Mackie's one, he's not a super soldier. He's just a normal guy with wings and a shield. We went from seeing peak, like guys running however fast and Steve Rogers clearing through everyone, but this guy seems so weak and vulnerable now. I'm just not a fan. And I understand the vision. I get the setup to the movies coming up, the two movies that are already out and also the ones that are going to be releasing soon. I 100% I get it. It's just not good. And the only reason I'm not putting it in F tier is because of I see the vision. I see the vision. I like the setup to the MCU that's gonna come. And yeah, I think the best thing about this movie was the way they started it. We didn't get the normal Marvel classic thing. We just got some different other graphic, and I think that's the best bit about the movie. So I'm gonna have to put it in D tier. Moving on to Thunderbolts. Now, I really liked watching Thunderbolts. I really liked the characters, everyone that's in the group. However, I do think Ghost is actually the weakest of the characters in the group. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of her, but I like her. She's okay. Bucky is by far one of my favorite characters in the whole of the MCU. He is insanely cool, and he shows it again in this movie. The Void and Sentry was so insane. Like, just the pure like threat he held to like the world in general is absolutely incredible. I absolutely love his character, and my big takeaway from this is how they actually defeated him. The whole sort of just like tackling the mental health aspect of it. I mean, I like that they brought in that aspect, but the fact that was the thing that brought him down was a bit like, I don't know, it's not great. I wouldn't mind if they had done that with a bit more of a fight in there, if you know what I mean, but they kind of just convinced him to stop. I can't really blame them because Sentry, or the Void, whatever you want to call him, looked like he was just the strongest guy the world's ever seen. So maybe a fight would have been worse because like, how are you ever going to take that thing down? That's my big sort of takeaway with it, but nevertheless, it was a great movie, and I actually can't wait to see them in future projects. So because of that, I'm going to put it in B tier. This is it. We have reached the end. Last but not least, I have the Fantastic Four First Steps. I'm a big fan of this movie. I think they casted every character perfectly. Pedro Pascal done a great job. Vanessa Kirby done a great job. I really do like this. Something that I actually struggled to see in this movie was like the pacing was very off sometimes. And I think specifically I remember a scene where Reed and Sue had like a fight, and they were like, it was quite a heated fight. And then the next scene they're like just completely good in the middle of the street somewhere. I don't understand. It feels like they just cut so many scenes out. And I think we can tell with like the runtime. The runtime is actually quite short for the movie I thought it was gonna be. But apart from that, every single character is such a good character in this movie. And I do think the weakest of them was actually Galactus. I think they could have done his character a lot better. But then again, like, Silver Surfer was so good. Johnny was insane. The Thing was so good as well. Like, I just love it. And I can't wait to see what they do with this group in Avengers Doomsday. I can't wait. I absolutely can't wait. It was so good. I was so happy to see Fantastic Four back on screen, and also in the MCU. I think there's so much potential to do so many good things with them, and this movie was such a great introduction. And because of that, I'm actually going to put it in B tier with Thunderbolts. And that rounds off our list. Like, that is it. This is what the tier list looks like in completion. And Please do let me know if you agree or disagree with me. Let me know in the comments. And yeah, it took me such a long time to watch all of these movies, and I was an absolute couch potato for a few weeks. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and yeah, I'll see you next time.